Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to get into a parenting idea that might just flip the script on what you thought it meant to raise a good kid. This is a really interesting one, so let's jump right in. So let me just ask you something right off the bat. Do you ever feel like getting one of your kids to learn anything is just a constant struggle, while another one just seems to run on their own power? And here's the real kicker. What if I told you that the perfectly obedient child, the one who never makes a fuss, might actually be the one who needs our attention the most? It makes total sense. We praise the good kid, the one who's quiet and compliant. I mean, let's be honest, it makes life easier for us, right? But the idea we're exploring today asks a really tough question. Is there a hidden cost to all that compliance? Okay, so that's what we're going to dive into first. We're going to pull back the curtain and really unpack what's going on underneath all that so-called good behavior. All right, so on one hand, you've got what we see on the surface, the obedient child. They're compliant, quiet, they stay out of trouble. Looks great, right? But the underlying reality can be a lot more complicated. What's really going on is that they might be suppressing their true feelings. They're not motivated by a desire to do well, but by a fear of getting in trouble. And over time, that can seriously lead to low self-worth. And here's the absolute heart of the issue. A child who is good in this way isn't learning how to manage themselves. Nope, they're learning how to manage you. They become little experts at reading the room, at figuring out what the adults want, and there's just no space left for them to figure out who they are. It's not character building, it's a survival mechanism. Okay, so if obedience based on fear is the problem, then what's the solution? Well, this is where we get to the good stuff. The hero of our story today is something called inner drive. This right here, this is what we're aiming for. Inner drive. It's that internal engine, that fire in the belly. It's the kind of motivation that comes from the inside out. A kid with a strong inner drive moves forward because they want to, because they're genuinely curious and engaged, not because they're terrified of the consequences if they mess up. It's a total game changer. So that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's great to talk about this concept, but how do you actually do it? How do we stop just demanding obedience and start, nurturing this powerful inner drive instead? Well, luckily, we've got a pretty clear roadmap to follow. So let's get into our next section, which is all about 3 keys, 3 actual, practical things we can do to help build that inner engine. So here they are, the big 3. First, we've got to grant them some autonomy. Second, we need to provide what you might call psychological nourishment. And third, we have to help them break big goals down into smaller pieces. Let's take a look at each one. Okay, key number 1, autonomy. This is huge. It basically means we need to back off with the constant high-pressure control. We have to create these little safe zones where they get to call the shots. Like, for example, letting them plan their own homework time. That one little change can be absolutely transformative. It completely flips the script in their mind from, they're making me do this, to, okay, I want to get this done. All right, number 2, and honestly, this might be the most important one, psychological nourishment. Just think of it like soil. You can't grow a healthy plant in bad soil, right? Well, a child's inner drive is the same. It needs 3 things to grow: a sense of security, I am safe; a sense of belonging, I am loved for who I am, not for what I do; and a sense of value, I matter. And a massive part of this is letting them be upset, letting them fail, and knowing your love isn't going to disappear. And our third and final key is all about goals. Look, you can't just point to a giant mountain and say, go climb that. It's overwhelming. Instead, our job is to help them see just the first few steps, help them visualize the path, and then, this is critical, celebrate the small victories along the way. Because every time they hit one of those little milestones, their brain goes, hey, I can do this. And that little spark of confidence is what fuels the next step and the next and the next. So when you take these 3 things together, autonomy, nourishment, and small goals, it really changes everything. It's not just a tactic. It's a whole new way of looking at parenting. It's about shifting our role from being a sculptor to becoming a gardener. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? A child's growth is not sculpting, but sprouting. Wow. It's so simple, but so profound. Our goal isn't to carve and chip away at a block of stone until it matches some perfect idea in our head. No, it's about nurturing something that's already alive, creating the perfect conditions for it to become what it was always meant to be. And that, right there, is really the heart of it all. Our job isn't to be the master artist forcing our will onto the material. Our job is to be the patient, attentive gardener. We provide the good soil, that love, that safety, that autonomy we talked about. And then we get to step back and watch with wonder as this incredible, one-of-a-kind person begins to grow. So I want to leave you with a question to think about. Just for this week, what's one small thing you could do to be less of a sculptor and more of a gardener? Maybe it's letting them choose their own outfit or planning one part of their day. What's one small way you can put down the chisel and pick up the watering can? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.